Hi, pre-calculus. I'm going to go over the ways that we're going to graph. And what we're going to do is we're going to name the type of graph. We're going to find the intercepts, which are going to help us graph. We'll draw a neat graph, and then we're going to use the calculator for support. Okay, so the calculator piece is going to come at the end after we have all of the information on our paper. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, let's just ask you. So we can have x to the first, we can have x to the power of 2, x to the second, or we can have x to the third. Okay, so if we have x to the first, do you know what type of graph that's going to make? Yeah, it's going to be a straight line. Okay, so we're going to have a line, and we're going to call that linear. Anytime you see x to the first power, it's a linear function. Okay, now what if the power is 2? The highest exponent on x is a squared power. And so do you know what the shape looks like? It's going to look like a U-shaped curve, and that's called a parabola. Okay, so don't call it a U-shape. It does look like a U-shape, but it's called a parabola. If the power is 3, do you know what we call that? This is x cubed, so we call it a cubic. And the curve goes up and then down and then up. Okay, make sure when you draw these that you put arrows on them. The graph does not stop right there just because you're only using these small numbers. It does go forever. Now there are more powers than 3, obviously. You could have x to the 4th and be a quartic. Okay, x to the 5th, 6th, 7th, though we are going to study those shapes in some future chapters. But for now, let's just focus on these 3 and the techniques of how to graph by hand. Okay, so I notice that there's an equation here, and I'm going to look for the highest power of x that I can find. Since the highest power is x to the first, this type of graph is going to be linear. Okay, so when I draw this, I'm going to draw a line. Now we're going to go ahead and find the intercepts. Okay, so there's X-intercept and there's a Y-intercept. Intercepts are the points where the graph crosses the axis, so those would be special points to know. To find an X-intercept, I'm going to let the Y value be 0. So if I zero out the Y, that makes negative 5x minus 7 equals 8. Let's go ahead and add 7 to both sides. Negative 5x equals 15. And x is negative 3. But that is not how you write an intercept. What would the x-intercept be? It would be negative 3, 0. Because remember, intercepts are points. Points where the graph crosses the axes. Let's find the y-intercept. To find a y-intercept, I'm going to let the x value be nothing. 2y minus 7 equals 8. Add 7, that makes 15, and the y value is 15 halves. I'm not going to write it like that, though. I'm going to say 0, 15 halves. There's nothing wrong with a fraction. So on this piece of graph paper, on the x-axis, I know that the graph is going to cross the point negative 1, 2, 3. Here's negative 3, 0, and there's the point. Okay, make sure you label this point with the coordinates, with the parentheses and the 2 values. On the y-axis, I'm going to cross it 15 halves. Now you don't have to draw all the tick marks as long as you write the value 0, 15 halves. I can tell what the value is. Some people like to say 7.5. You can certainly do that. And now I'm going to get out my straight edge because this said linear. So I'm going to draw a line going like this. Okay, is that a good line? No, Mrs. Bretek, you forgot to put the arrows on. You have to put arrows on a line because the line continues forever. Okay, now we're going to use the calculator to check to make sure that we got this correct. And in order to do that, when you're using your graphing calculator, you have to have it solved for y. I'm going to write this equation down here. When you are using the graphing calculator, okay, where you go to graph is the y equals button. But we don't have our equation in y equals form just yet, so we're going to have to rearrange a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to have to move these 2 terms to the other side. Switch sides, switch signs. That's going to be a 5x Add 7, that makes 15. It's not solved for y just yet. I have to divide every term by 2. And I'm going to leave these in fraction form. Why not? Y equals 5 halves x plus 15 halves. Do you know what 5 halves is? Well, that's the slope of the line. Everything's coming back to me now. All right, I'm going to show you the steps on the calculator so you could watch the video and then pause and go back and try it yourself, or you can get your calculator opened and then play along with me. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do here is go to the y equals button, which is the graphing command. And yours should look just like this. Y equals y1. You can type a lot of equations in. We're just going to type in 1. The first one is 5 halves x. That's a fraction. To get the fraction command, I'm going to hit alpha y equals, and I'm going to pick number 1. Alpha y equals, which is technically f1, that function right there, and that's fraction. 5 in the top, I go down, 2 in the denominator. Okay, now x is not in the denominator, so you have to make sure you move over, get off to the side, and type your variable. The variable button, okay, is right here. It's called xt theta. We're in function mode, so the variable button is going to be an x plus, now let's go get fraction again. It's alpha y equals, I choose number 1 and I type 15 over 2. So I've typed my equation into y equals. The second thing I want to make sure you guys know how to do is change your window. So if you go to zoom, okay, you can pick number 6, which is standard. When I pick number 6, it draws a piece of graph paper that is 10 by 10, the regular size graph paper. Okay, if you go to window, you can see how it's negative 10 to 10, the regular window. So that's window. Zoom number 6 makes the standard piece of graph paper for you. And then graph, the graph button over here, takes you to the graph. So all your graphing tools are up here on the top. Okay. So I noticed that the straight line that I drew is very similar to the calculator, so that's making me think I got this correct. There's a couple points I want you to check, and those are the intercept points. Okay, so the trace button will help you do that. When you push trace, it automatically took me to the Y-intercept point right there, which is 0, 15 halves, so I'm feeling confident with my Y-intercept. When you're in the trace command and you have an x value and a y value, those coordinates, you can type any x number you want. And I want to type an x value of negative 3. So when it looks like this, you just type negative 3, enter, and it takes you right there. And negative 3 gives a y value of 0, which is perfect. This graph is looking correct. Okay? You have to do all of this paperwork first, the rearranging, the intercepts, and then you support it with technology. Sometimes it's hard to fit the graph without knowing anything about it. Okay, let's go on to the second one here. Graph again using intercepts. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I see the highest power is 2. When you have an x squared problem, that means it's going to be a parabola. The shape is a parabola, a U-shaped graph. Okay, so don't draw a straight line. To find the intercepts, we're going to have to let the x and the y take turns being 0. So to find an x-intercept, I'm going to let the y number equal 0. So that would be 0 equals 6x squared plus 12. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 12 from both sides. Okay, what would the next step be? Divide both sides by 6, so negative 2 equals x squared. Now, how do you undo x squared? Well, you undo a squared power with the square root. Okay, and so x is going to equal something. So if I want to check this, I can do the square root, which is in blue, of negative 2. Uh-oh. Imaginary. This is not working. Oh, we cannot take the square root of a negative. That's not possible. That's not possible. I'm trying to solve this and I'm getting no solution. No solution. There's a symbol for that. It's the 0 with the slash. Okay, wait a minute. The problem said find the intercepts. Okay, so I can't say no solution. Where does the graph touch the x-axis? I'm trying to find it and I can't. Oh, that means this graph doesn't touch the x-axis. So that's what I would have to officially say here. There are no x-intercepts. So when you draw your graph, make sure you do not touch the x-axis. Here's my graph. I better not touch the x-axis. Okay, this is going to be fun. Let's go find a y-intercept. To find a y-intercept, we have to let the x number equal 0. So 3y equals nothing, plus 12, y equals 4. Okay, don't say it like that. A y-intercept is a point, so we'll say 0, 4. So does it touch the y-axis? Yes. It touches at 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to say that this is the point 0, 4. Okay, now we have to put our brain with all this information to get a graph. Remember, we were supposed to draw a parabola? A parabola can either be opening up or it can be opening down. Okay, looking at this graph, I'm not allowed to touch the x-axis. So that means the parabola cannot be opening down. It must be opening up like this. Okay, let's go ahead and check this on our calculator. To use the calculator for support, we're going to have to rearrange the equation a little bit. You cannot type the equation in as 3y equals. So that means we're going to have to isolate the y. Let's divide all the terms by 3. So y equals 2x squared plus 4. So this is the equation we're going to type into our calculator. Let's go grab our technology and check. Okay, so where do we go to type in equations again? We go to y equals. Oh, this equation from last time is still there. So I'm going to hit the clear button over on the right. I'm going to wipe that one out. Okay, and my equation is 2x squared, the x button, and then the squared command is over here on the left. There's a quick shortcut here for squared, plus 4. Okay, I'm going to show you guys something really important. This is the plus, minus, multiply. This is the subtract button. And down here is the negative button. The calculator gets confused if you type the wrong one. Okay, so minus is bigger than, and if I type them, let's see, minus, negative, let's take a look up here. They do look different. The negative is smaller. Okay, I'm going to delete that out. And then how do you see the graph? You hit the graph button. So you start with the left button, you end with the right button. Oh, nice. I'm seeing a parabola opening up just like mine, and I want to check that point. So which button do we push? The trace button. Nice. There you go. Okay, so that is the shape of a parabola. All right, let's turn the page and keep going. Let's graph number 3 here by using intercepts. Okay, so the first thing I notice is that we have an x squared power. So when you have a power of 3, this is going to be a cubic. Okay, it's going to be a cubic. Let's go ahead and find the intercepts. So I'm going to organize my work by saying x-intercept and y-intercept. To find an x-intercept, we're going to let the y value be 0. I'll just cross that off with my finger. X cubed equals 8. How do you solve this? How do you undo a cubic power? Okay, you can't square root because he's not squared, he's cubed. you're going to have to do the cubed root of both sides. Okay, and so that would eliminate the cubic power. And now the question is, what is the cubed root of 8? So some people automatically know that it's 2, but if that number was really huge, how do you use technology to find that out? Let's make sure everyone knows the cubed root button. Okay, so you go to your home screen. To get out of here, you're going to quit. We're going to second quit. If you have calculations here, you can clear them out. You can leave them, it doesn't matter. And so we want to find the cubed root button. And where you go for that is in math over on the left. So I see turn into a fraction command. I see a cube command. Oh, number 4, the cubed root. There it is, number 4. Okay, so I'm going to pick number 4. The cubed root of. So you see how you type the command first, and then inside is where it wants to know the value. Okay, so inside, I want to do the cubed root of 8. And that comes out to be 2. And the question is it plus or minus? Does 2 times 2 times 2 make 8? Yes. Does a negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 make positive 8? No. So when you're doing the cubed root, positives come out positive, negatives come out negative. Remember? Okay, so the x-intercept is the point 2, 0. I'm going to go get that on my graph paper right away. 1, 2, 2, 0, there it is. Now it's time to find the y-intercept. To find a y-intercept, you let x equal 0. If x is 0, oh, this is easy. Y is equal to 8. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go up to a value of 8, and I'm going to put a point. Now, I'm not quite sure how this looks. I know it has to be a cubic, but I really want to get some information, maybe some calculator help here. So I'm going to go in my calculator. I'm going to go to y equals. Is it ready to be typed in? Not quite. I have to get x cubed moved to the other side. So y is going to equal negative x cubed plus 8. Okay, now it's ready to be typed into the calculator. So we have negative x to the power of 3. The easiest place to do powers, okay, is the sticky caret up here, to the power of 3. Okay, and then we have plus, oops, that's too little. We have to go down here, plus 8. Okay, and then if I go to the graph button, oh, I am noticing a cubic. Okay, I'm noticing a cubic go down, down, down like that. So I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to make sure I hit this point right there on the y-axis and hit that point right there on the x-axis. And that is the cubic. Okay, but a lot of the information we had already. Let's check these points. So we're going to hit trace. It's telling me that the y-intercept is 0, 8. I like it. Well, let's write that as a point. 0, 8. And then I'm going to type the number 2. You just type 2. Then you hit enter. Perfect. Your x-intercept is good as well. Okay. All right, we got one more. Let's graph using intercepts. What type of graph do you think this is going to be? Since the power is 2, the shape is going to be a parabola. Okay, so we're going to draw a U-shaped graph. We're going to find our x-intercepts and our y-intercepts. Okay, please go find the x-intercept. So I'm going to let the y number be 0. 9x squared equals 36. Divide both sides by 9. X squared equals 4. We're going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides. And x is equal to, oh, when you square root, plus or minus 2. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and write a little note here. When we square root, when you square root, okay, you get plus and minus. Please write that down in a red pen. It's going to come up a lot, and that's the number one thing people forget. So we have plus and minus 2 comma 0. You can write it like that, okay, or if you want, you can write 2 comma 0 and negative 2 comma 0. This is the same thing. This is just together and it's faster. Okay? So on the x-axis, we're going to have one intercept at negative 2 comma 0. One intercept is at positive 2 comma 0. Okay? We still have a y-intercept to find. I want you to find the y-intercept. I want you to draw the graph. And I want you to make sure you put a picture of this when you upload your notes. Okay, good luck, pre-calculus.